Listen, thank you all. Thank you for standing up and giving me a standing ovation. I would like to say that this is something I have earned. But the reality is, and I know it may feel a little bit played, but it's really important for me, and I think for all of you, to give credit where credit is due. This organization would not exist, and so I really want you to give some real love if it weren't for the vision of Dr. Joyce Payne. So Dr. Payne, come on up here. You have to. You have to. Come on, give it up. Come on up. Dr. Payne was at my birthday party this year, my 35th birthday party. And she was throwing it down, y'all. Oh, wait, who laughed? Wait a minute. 33.
Yes.
In any event, Dr. Payne joined me at my birthday party. It was a surprise birthday party. And can I tell you, the surprise was she broke it down. I was like, Lord, she went all the way down.
Well, look, I'm from D.C. And for those of you in the audience who are from D.C., you understand that that's right, it goes way back. But now I'm also from North Carolina.
All right,
and
so,
and since there are more students in the house from North Carolina, I'll just take North Carolina. Forget D.C. But Johnny is always so gracious about acknowledging the work that I started in 1985. But I must tell you that this Thurgood Marshall Fund has exceeded all of my expectations. It is a totally new organization under Johnny's leadership. He is not only a phenomenal leader, those three things I talked about, courage, compassion, and confidence, this is what you see in leadership. Courage to stand alone when we take on issues that are not popular, like the student loan program. We were the only organization saying it's not going to happen to public, historically black colleges and universities. And confidence in taking the fight to the streets at every level, and also compassionate about the fine staff we have. I mean, you have never seen a more hardworking, committed staff than the ones we have in this room today. So you students, I'm not supposed to be making this, Johnny's going to make a speech, but you are very fortunate to be here today. You're the leaders, the global leaders of the world in the future. And I am just so in love with each one of you in so many different ways because you make us proud. I talk to students every day. Matter of fact, I talked to a young lady on the elevator about 10 minutes ago when I was late who told me that she grew up with 7 sisters and brothers, and she's the oldest in her family, single mother, stories that all of us could tell. Didn't have any intention of going to college, but is now working on her master's degree, I believe, at Georgetown University.
All right.
And those stories are across the board. I'm sure that all of you have your stories. But enjoy this, be who you are, but also challenge us to be as good as you want us to be, and vice versa. Thank you for Johnny's leadership. He's the star this evening. Let me sit down.
No. And she kills me rolling in with these 3-inch pumps. I'm like, what's really going on? But Dr. Payne, I always take a moment to recognize her because, as you know, you become more mature and build your career and become successful. You have to realize that we're doing that on the shoulders of some real giant leaders, and she is one of those people. You stole my line, Steve. I literally wrote this down, that this is my favorite time of the year, and it's become my favorite time of the year. I got to tell you, like most of you, what are your favorite times of the year? Your birthday and Christmas, right? And maybe some Thanksgiving in there, right? But this has really, in the 5 years, I spent the first 20 years of my life, my life in corporations. So I'm a for-profit guy, a true, as I told someone the other day, I'm a capitalist all the way through, right? And this notion of coming to the Thurgood Marshall College Fund one day over a drink, I'll share with you how I got here. But what I will tell you is that coming here every year at about this time of the year restores my faith. It restores my hope in the future of America. You can't begin to appreciate how good it feels for us to come in here and see you, young lady, and you, young man with the maroon shirt on, and you, young lady in the red jacket over there. Look at her, she's smiling. Yes, you. She's like, because it means everything's going to be okay. You know, if you believe what you see on the news and you see what they say about students of color, men and women, you would be concerned about what the future is of America, because the reality is America is graying and browning at once. So you are America. This is what it's going to look like, this room. I was walking through the hotel hallway just a few seconds ago. There's a group of Asian students here and a group of African Americans. I was like, dang, this is a new America. And you all represent it. And as I said, 360 days of the year, I spend my time concerned about what the future is going to feel like and what it's going to be like. And then I come in here and see you looking so good, so smart, so ambitious, so committed. And I feel better because I know that it's going to be a great world for my 5-year-old baby girl. And it's because of you all. So I really want to thank you. Thank you for coming in. We're going to say that. And you may think that we don't feel that. You may think that's part of his speech. Well, the reality is I have about 5 things to say and I sit down. So it's not written. This is truly from my heart. I am so thankful for the energy that you give me and the hope that each one of you give us. We work for you, and we're really, really, really happy to do so. So what do you tell a really smart group of leaders? When you're charged, like I have to give the challenge every year, and they'll tell you I'm a little silly and a little animated, so you can't take me too seriously, but I keep it real. And we're going to have a little conversation, but I was reflecting on what do I say to you all? You're here because you're really good. And so what else can I add to it? Congratulate you and sit down? No. My team and I spent all year, and it's literally a team effort, trying to figure out what does Johnny say to you all. And it hit me one day. How many of you all watch Scandal? Oh, she jumped up. I wish I had Olivia Pope up in here, but I don't. But I was trying to figure out thematically, what do I say to you all? And what will resonate with you? I don't want to talk to you. I want it to mean something to you. And I want you to walk away. And so I have 4 points to review with you. And by the way, if each of you only picks one of them that it really resonates with you, then my job has been done and I feel successful. But I'm hoping that a few of those things will really stick to you, because I'm speaking to our leaders, as you very well put it. You are our current leaders, our future leaders. And so I figured, what do you say to this population? Well, so I'm sitting up, and my team's going to roll you. So I'm watching Scandal, and it dawns on me, because I figured, let's, instead of reality TV that everybody's into, you know, Phaedra doing this, and Apollo in jail, and everybody, blah, blah, Housewives. I was watching the Housewives the other day. I was like, oh, I cannot believe I don't want to leave this, right? It starts, and I'm like, I should not be watching this junk. And then 3 hours later, I've, like, caught up for the season, right? But, and y'all know they just had the season opener, right? I was right on it. It was shameful. It's guilty pleasures, right? But at the end of the day, the conversation I want to have with you is a reality conversation. That's what we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about for the next 20 minutes or so, and get you out of here so you can get out and enjoy this wonderful city and the wonderful weather. But we're going to have a reality conversation. And again, I hope it doesn't step on anyone's toes. I'm known to be a little bit of a provocateur, so it will. But that's okay. Let's pull them back. Go get some Band-Aids and some sea breeze or whatever y'all women put on the bottom of your feet. Shoot, I know, it's a shame. No, I know, right? But the reality is we're going to have some honest dialogue here, because we care so deeply about you. And we want you to know from the bottom of our heart that I didn't just give you a speech. I came here to talk with you. And hopefully you walk away with something. So I'm watching Scandal, and the first reality that I wanted to share with you came from this scene of Scandal.
Did I not raise you for better? How many times have I told you you have to be what? You have to be what?
Twice.
What?
Twice as good.
Twice as good as them to get half of what they have.
You see, I grew up in a generation where my parents weren't apologetic about that. The reality is you are going to have to be twice as good. I would like to think that I wouldn't be such a pessimist and say to be half as good as they are, to be as good or perhaps to exceed them. But the reality is you're going to have to be twice as good. And anyone who comes into this room, any of your counselors, any of your teachers, listen, we want to hype you up, but we need you to take a reality pill every once in a while. As much as America has come as far as it has come, the reality is you've got to be twice as good. And I'm going to share with you a story. So I started my career as a litigator at a major law firm. I'm down in South Florida. And I walked in, and I am busting my butt during the summer. I mean, I'm working. I've never worked as hard in my life. When I tell you it was 14, 15-hour days in the library, writing, researching, proving to people that I could do the work. I'll never forget it was the summer. Now, they were paying us a lot of money, but during the summer, literally, as a summer intern, they said, you've got to work July 4th. I was like, what? I mean, Independence Day. Can a brother be free, right? It's like, what's up? And they said, we work. At this law firm, Steele, Hector, and Davis, everyone works. This was home to the Attorney General of the United States, Janet Reno, was our first female partner. This was the real, right, okay? So they said, everyone here works, and you work until the work is done. But the guy sitting next to me in my office, and we literally shared an office this summer, Summer Associates is what they called us. His name was JB, and I'll never forget. Nice guy. But JB didn't seem to work hard. You know, when I was there on the 4th, he wasn't. When I was there late on Thursday night, Friday night, Saturday mornings, there was no JB. And I just didn't understand it. So I had the audacity, you know how you all, when we're really smart and we think we're at the top of our class and we've come from the right schools and everything. So I went up to the partner and had a conversation. I said, knock, 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 can I talk to you? I want to understand, why am I having to work so hard? And JB isn't. This guy, without a blink, looked at me and he said, you went to Drake, he went to Harvard. I said, damn. He said, and his daddy sits on the board of directors of one of our largest clients. He said, you must work twice as hard if you want to get a job here. Unapologetically. That's the world, young people. Let me just tell you. So this concept, and I had to get myself together because, you know, I was mad. I wanted to burn the whole building down. I was just mad. And then I went back to my office, and that first thing that came to me, and this is my major point here, is I thought, that's so unfair, right? And I see y'all nodding. And then I reflected on something my grandmother said. With her 8th grade education, she said, baby, fair is a place where you go get cotton candy and candy apples. It ain't life. I said, ooh, grandma. Fair is a place you go get cotton candy and candy apples. She said, that's not life. I would like to tell you that you can act a fool in there because you're smart, but there are a whole bunch of smart people out there and a whole bunch of not so smart people who want that job, who'll do whatever it takes to get it. So she said, you've got to be twice as good. And that would be the number one sort of reality check I'd like to have. And I had the grades. I came out National Merit Scholar, valedictorian in my high school, finished undergrad in 2.5 years. I'm on law review for those of you in law school. See, at 23, brother was finished a bachelor's degree, a master's degree, and a JD. But it didn't matter because JB was going to get the job if I didn't work, what? Twice as hard. So that would be my number one message I'd like each to think about. You're talented, but there are a whole bunch of talented people out there, right? A lot of them. And so what you've got to do is outwork them. I always said, I'm smart. I may not be the smartest, but I can outwork anybody. And ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you, there's nothing that replaces hard work. Nothing. Unless you win the lottery or were born well, the reality is nothing replaces hard work and smart work. So number one reality, what? Got to be twice as good, and that's okay. People who spend their time telling me about how unfair that is, I don't think that's particularly productive, right? And that's the message that I want to talk to the Thurgood Marshall College Fund fellows about. Reality number 2, you've got to humble yourself, each of you. While we are proud of you and you're incredibly talented, you must realize that the prize is going to go to that person who has the right level of humility. No matter what I've achieved in the life, every day I wake up, I thank God, literally. I thank my parents, I thank my grandparents, I thank ancestors, people who put up with a whole bunch so that we could be here in this building today. If that's not in your gut, if that's not who you are, if you were so caught up in your 3.8 GPA and your summa magna somebody laude, you're going to miss out. I can assure every one of you. I know a lot of very successful people who are hella unhappy. Those people commit suicide. Those people are on drugs. And a lot of it comes from that gut. They can't be happy because at their core, there's no humility. Each of you, I'm talking to you, you're incredibly talented, but I want you to keep a morsel, at least a morsel of humility, because it will make all the difference. I was telling someone the story. I mentioned it because I'm in love with this 5-year-old child of mine, right? So you're going to hear about her a lot, but you know, she's in this school in Washington, D.C., where it's literally Mandarin immersion. So they have Mandarin on Monday, all day. Math, science, social studies, history, everything is Mandarin. The next day, it's all English. So my baby comes home, she counts to 100 in a Mandarin. You know, I think she is like genius, right? I'm like, oh my God, I did it. My stuff was good, right? My baby's counting at 5 to 100. She could do English because we went to kindergarten knowing that, but I was like, she's doing this in Chinese, right? So I went online and said, query, how do you know if your child is a prodigy? Google. Up pops an article. The article says, if you're reading this article, she's not. True story. Because it was a sobering moment, talking about humbling yourself. Because they said there are 3-year-olds who are doing algebra. There are 2-year-olds who are classical pianists. I mean, there's some deep stuff out there. I mean, these are some really smart kids. And so the point was, as smart as any of you all are, and as smart as you think your kid is, and your cousin, and your brother, your sister, your classmate, there's some prodigies out there, okay? And you have to put this all in perspective. You're plenty smart enough to be very successful. So this isn't about taking anything away from you, but the reality is sometimes we all need a dose of humility. It will take you a very long way, especially when things get rough. Trust me, as you navigate corporate or government or whatever you choose to do in this world, academia, you've got to have, even though you got doctor in the front of your name, there are a lot of people who put a lot of words after that, which are not flattering. Humility is incredibly important, and I'm reminded. So I worked at a company called IAC, Interactive Corp. Huge company, our divisions. We owned Ask.com, we owned Ticketmaster, we owned Match.com. We owned a whole bunch of stuff. Scott and I worked together. George, we were all there. I was first, it's head of HR, Fortune 500 company, publicly traded. I was the global head of HR. And then I was fortunate enough to get the opportunity to be a CEO, appointed to run one of its businesses. So I'm sitting in my office in New York, overlooking, literally, Scott, telling the truth, 9th floor of a Frank Gehry design building. I have a corner office looking at the Statue of Liberty. God is good. You hear me? They flew me home every day on my corporate jet because my wife lived in Charlotte. I needed to work in New York. Corporate jet. I'd left the office when I left because when I got there, they were waiting for me. It was a really, really, really nice life, right? But I'm preparing for a board meeting. So I'm sitting there, and all of a sudden, I decide I need me some Dunkin' Donuts. I need me a Dunkin' Donut run, right? I really needed the coffee. I didn't need the donut, but you'll get them together, right? So I call downstairs to my group, and I say, I'm looking for someone. It's 7:30 in the evening, and no one answers. So I dial around, and finally, I hit a young woman on my team. Actually, I said a young woman. It's a young man. I remember the story. So young guy on the team, I call him up, and I'd say, can you come down? So he comes down, I'm sitting at my desk, and I turned around and I said, listen, I need you, this is the way I said, I need you to do me a favor. I need you to go around the corner to the Dunkin' Donuts and get me a 5 and 5 hot, 5 sugar, 5 cream hot, right? And I said, throw a little vanilla or something in, give it a little flavor, right? This dude stopped, he looked at me. Now, I'm the executive vice president of HR for a global company, okay? And he pauses. You know how you turn around to do your work and you feel like your mama's still on your shoulder? So I turned back around. He said, Ms. Taylor, I'd like to speak with you. I said, sure. He said, you know I have a MBA from Cornell. Y'all, my head spun around, like in the movies and stuff. I started sweating and itching. I was like, he don't know, right? He just doesn't know where I come from. I'm tired, I'm hungry, I need some coffee, and I'm from Miami. This is bad, So I decided I was going to entertain bro for a minute. So I turned around, I said, well, come in and talk to me for a second. Let's talk about this. And he said, sometimes, truth. He said, sometimes you act like you have a chip on your shoulder. Head spun around again. He said, it's like, you're still upset about slavery. Brother, calm down. And I said, it's cool to him. I said, if I was still mad about slavery, I'd be choking the shit out of you right now. That's what I told him. I told him that. I swear I did. I was like, for real? I said, but I'm not. I'm really not. Really not. And he said, I have an MBA from Cornell. I said, I know, I hired you. Let's have that conversation. I said, but you have two choices, young man. You can take your Cornell MBA and go downstairs and get me that coffee I asked for. And I'll pay for you a cup too, because you clearly need something. Or you can go downstairs and pull your Cornell MBA off the wall and take it home and don't come back here. The notion, the nerve of telling me, and by the way, this wasn't about Johnny Taylor. I had to break down. I said, you went to the MBA school at Cornell, right? I said, yes. I said, so go pull up the 10K, look at my salary, divide that by 12 months, and then do yours. I said, and then ask yourself, what's the highest and most productive use of my time? I said, it doesn't include debating this with you, okay? This is what I'm saying. How dare you? And let me tell you, I tell that story because as shocking as it is, it's real. The stuff that people will say. And I'm not going to get caught up in the millennial generation because the reality is if millennials have problems, we created them, right? We raised y'all. The real deal, right? If you got an attitude, it's because your mom and daddy didn't get in that, right? But I'm not advocating for beating children, but no. But seriously, right? The lack of humility is a real problem. And you have to understand you're going to have to pay your dues. And when I ever get too fancy with myself, I remember that grandmother who washed toilets to make sure that my mother could do better so that I could go to college and then I could be up in a suite in a Washington Hilton, okay? That's how you put this stuff in perspective, okay? And whenever you need that reality check, think about this moment right here. Because yes, you're going to be successful, but there are a whole bunch of successful people. Success to me is being able to go to bed at night and feel good and smile and have a warmth in your heart that you've done good. Not just for I know it wasn't grammatically correct, done well, but you get my point, that you have done good. You've made your family proud, your stakeholders proud, and all of your stakeholders. They could be elementary school teachers, middle school teachers, high school teachers, college professors, the people who are investing in you now. That's what humility gives you, and I promise you it makes you a much happier person no matter how much money you make, what title you achieve, where you live. Humility is an amazing thing. It's an asset, and you better hope that God gives you some of it. If not, go buy it, find it, do something, because it really works, okay? Third point. I call it the reality of the isms. And those of you who've been here before know, but I want to share it to the new folks and remind the other ones. See, when I was in corporate America, I would always have, students come in, and I had one young man I'll never forget. You all may know him. Finesse Mitchell. He's a comedian, like he does television and all of that. So Finesse and I went to undergrad together at University of Miami. And so he was interning subsequently at a company that I was working with because he was a little younger than I am, just a little. And he said, he came into me and he was just so frustrated. he was really, really, really frustrated. And he started telling me that, his boss was really giving him a hard time, and his boss is racist, and da-da-da-da-da, and it just went on. And I had, frankly, had my fill of it, because I had heard from a number of students. Every time someone comes to my office, they were upset about something. Either my boss is a man and doesn't like me because I'm a woman, my boss is white, doesn't like me because I'm black, my boss is straight, doesn't like me because I'm gay. It just went on and on and on. And so finally, I came up with this construct, because frankly, I had to give an answer. I had to help these young people. A lot of people were bringing these issues to me, and I termed them the isms, the sexisms, the racisms, the ageisms. It includes all forms of discrimination, which, by the way, and for the record, is horrible. It is a really, really bad thing. But let me leave you with something. I actually decided that the only way, my coping mechanism, would be the following. How many of you took biology and chemistry? You all know basic physics and all that good stuff, right? So I began to liken, I decided in my own head, I had to make this work, that racism was like gravity. I likened it to gravity. The fact that gravity exists, right, all about us, it's a force. Its job is to do what? Hold you down. But in spite of that, airplanes today got you all here, most of you, right? They overcame gravity. They didn't suggest that because gravity's not going anywhere, right? Trees grow up vertically in spite of gravity. You all walk vertically in spite of gravity. So at some point, I said, this is just sort of gravity. How many of you woke up this morning and said, Lord, I can't get out of bed because gravity's holding me down? How silly does that sound? Because then gravity wins. And that's how I felt. If I was going to let somebody ruin my day, I've got on my best new suit, everything's looking good, pull up in my car, blah, 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 and somebody uses the N-word, I wish they would distract me. I'm not having it. That's their problem. Ignorance is bliss. I just kept going. I can't get caught up in that stuff. Let me submit to you guys, if your enemy knows what gets at your core, if they can just say something that throws you off your game, then that's all they have to do. They don't have to compete with you. Just get in your head. You've got to think about the isms, and I'm not suggesting, I hope not one person in this room walks out and says, Johnny Taylor says just accept racism or any form of bigotry. Just let people discriminate against you. I'm not saying that, but I'm saying from a coping mechanism standpoint, stars, you're going to have to think about this, give it its own context. And to me, it's gravity. So in spite of gravity, Delta Airlines got many of you all, United Airlines got many of you all, Southwest, they got you up to date and brought you here. What does that tell you? That means in spite of all of those things that you are going to encounter, young man, you're going to encounter it, young lady, that you still have to succeed. Just reflect back on that grandma and what she did to make sure that your parents and you could ultimately enjoy the lives that you live. You can't let someone's bigotry stop you. It's a really, really, really bad idea. Feel me? That's reality number 3. I would love to tell you that these things won't happen and that they won't exist and you won't have to confront them and laws can stop you, but we all know that's not true. The only thing I can manage is how I deal with it. And I would suggest to you, just equate it to gravity. It exists, it's omnipresent, but I must succeed. Was it like hot air, I rise, she said? Okay? That's what you have to do with gravity. Last point, because I feel like I'm preaching, hallelujah. The last reality sort of note that I'll give you in this conversation today is know that people are rooting for you. I need you to know that. On those days when you feel like the world is against you, I have students call us sometimes, they're so frustrated, they're ready to give up. I have people who are a month away from graduation in December and get so frustrated they just give up because they believe what they read in the press. Everybody's against you. No one wants you to be successful. Life's hard. You all may not think and appreciate fully how hard life can be, but let me share with you in this opening charge. Life will have a lot of good times, but it's going to have some bad times because, you can't have good days unless you have bad days because it's all relative, right? It's a relativity concept. And you're going to have those times, but I want each of you to know that in this room, there are people who care about you. More importantly, there are people all over who want to see you be successful. Sometimes they will look like you, sometimes they won't. Don't make the assumption that, the white woman doesn't want to help me because she's white. Really? That's not what it's about. Don't make the assumption that the black man is going to help me. You can't do that. What you've got to know is I've got to find the people who want me to be successful. Surround yourselves with a lot of positive energy. I don't even do negative. The second someone goes negative, I'm out, because there's just no upside to that, right? Not for me. It may work for them if they're trying to drag me down, but there's no in it. So find someone who inspires you, who will lift you up on that bad day, and there will be those, as I've said, and then make that person the person to get you through it. I want to recognize someone who I don't even know if she's in the room. I don't know if Denise is in the room. Well, let me tell you about someone in her absence, because I think it's that worthy of a story. So last year, December of this year, we reached out to an organization that you all know, very apropos given that you've given away Apple products today. We reached out to Apple and said, we'd like to talk with you about supporting the country's historically black colleges and universities. You all read about it, right? You heard about it. The Apple scholars are in the room. Apple executives are in the room. We reached out to them and said, we have an idea. We think that the students at Fort Valley State, the students at Mississippi Valley State, the student at UDC, the student at Florida A&M, we have some really, North Carolina A&T, amazing talent in the HBCU world. So while Silicon Valley is saying it can't find diverse talent, it's because they're looking in the wrong place. We know where they are. We have 300,000 students on HBCU campuses, and we want to introduce you all. Match.com, if you will. Okay? Oh, Heavenly, or whatever the other one is, And let me tell you, Denise, and I wish she were here because, you want to talk about recognizing someone. This sister looks like us, graduated from Grambling State University. Okay, y'all in the house? One of your alums, she's back there, navigated the corporate, very complex organization called Apple and put her career on the line because she so believed in every one of you in the room and your other 300,000 or so colleagues back on your campuses. And Apple announced in March of this year, $40+ million to HBCUs. Is that it? If you ever doubt whether or not there are people out here who are cheering for you, know it. And they are in some of the most interesting companies, government agencies. They're everywhere. People want you to be successful, and I want you to keep that in mind. That's the reality check, okay? The reality check is many of us. I gave up my corporate career because I am committed to you all. With that, I want to introduce my team because these are all folks who I'm telling you would do the exact same thing and have done the same thing. Starting on the right, you all have met Jamal Bailey, my Vice President of Marketing, Virginia State University. Vice President of Programs, and this guy runs all of our programs as well as our Opportunity Funding Corporation. He's the president of that division, Mr. Scott Lilly. And this is my friend, I call him the White Shadow because he follows me everywhere. Brad Gebert, our Chief Information Officer, Chief Technology Officer. I know, she's like, for real? No. Our head of governmental affairs, when Dr. Payne alluded to the conversation where we had to go fight Washington and we had to fight the president, we had a leader, and her name was Edith Bartley. She's a lawyer. Edith, Hampton University. Jennifer Wider, you all may not know her, but Jennifer is largely responsible for all of this, right? She's the one that has raised money for years, ensuring that we had the resources to be able to bring you all here. And Jennifer now runs strategy and innovation. She has a new role at the Thurgood Marshall College Fund, Syracuse University. My chief of staff, she's the lawyer, the HR guy, and Kathy Harris is our chief of staff. Kathy's University of South Carolina, so is, that's right, and she's the U for law school at Edith, Georgetown, and Missouri for law school. She didn't want to claim that, right? But y'all got it, right? And I think I've gotten my entire team. I don't think I missed anyone because they should be on this front one if I have, because it's not. Listen, I want to sit down, but I want you to think about those 4 sort of reality points. We just had a reality conversation. 1, you must be twice as good, right? And by the way, I just want to say on that, that's just not a message for black folks. Let me tell you, you attend an HBCU, okay? So no matter what your race is, when you go in, you've got to be twice as good because you've got to overcome any biases that people have about HBCUs, whether you're white, Asian, whatever you are, you have to be twice as good by virtue of the fact that you are coming out of a wonderful historically black college and university. Secondly, humble yourself. Please, I beg of you, that's probably the most important thing you can do. 3, accept the isms. And 4, and finally, please know that there are those of us out here who care so deeply. We've given up our lives and our careers to make sure that we make a difference in your life. God bless you all. Have a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful week, and I hope you have some fun. I really appreciate you all. Thank you.